It is a fabulous Friday evening here in the city of Lagos. Hello and welcome to Game On, coming to you live from the studios of News Central Television. My name is Babatunde Koiki. Always a pleasure having this show with you. And of course, we like to look at everything that is happening in the world of sports from Nigeria, West Africa, Africa, and beyond. Because as we always say, sports never stops, it never sleeps. And of course, we're coming to you all on our social media platforms, which means we're streaming live on YouTube. And you can also join in on the conversation using our social media handles. That's X, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, Facebook. Welcome once again. I'm not doing the show tonight. It's a three-man show. Adebari joins me in my immediate right, looking bespectacled and quite respectable. I really don't know what to say, but what are you looking forward to most this weekend in terms of sports?
I think it has to be the fixture between Manchester City and Arsenal. It could be a potential title decider.
Really? With 11 games to go, with 10 games to go?
Definitely, it could be. I think the winner of this fixture could be, should I say, spurred mentally to go ahead to win the Premier League.
Okay, well, that's Adebari joining us and hoping to give us the benefit of his wisdom. But also on my far right is Favour Itua. Favour Itua, always looking like a DSS official. Favour, thank you so much for joining us. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I'm looking forward to the big one, USM Algiers against Rivers United. And in Uyo, that's of course the Gosola Agbabe International Stadium. Don't forget, Rivers United, the only representative when it comes to Nigeria on the continent. They could make history, getting to the semi-finals for the first time when it comes to Rivers United. And
that's a CAF Confederations Cup game, and a lot has been going down before even a ball has been kicked in that game. Of course, we cannot talk about Rivers United and CAF Confederations Cup without calling in our good friend and football journalist extraordinaire, Acheru. He'll be joining us on the second half of the show. But before we get to that, let's quickly start with some news that coming out of the Diamond League. Yes, the very first Diamond League event of the year, the Xiamen Diamond League, is going to take place in China. And of course, everyone is looking forward to the women's 100-meter hurdles, which is the season opener. Nigeria's own Tobi Amusan is in the mix. Remember, she's the 100 meters world record holder. 100 meter, and also don't forget she also won a 100 meter gold medal at the Africa Games. And that's the second consecutive win that she's had. Well, the first Diamond League event, Xiamen, in China, everyone is looking forward to that. It takes place on the 20th of April. And of course, other athletes who will be competing in the women's 100 meter hurdles alongside Tobi Amusan include Devynne Charlton, Danielle Williams of Jamaica. There's Olympic champion J.Camacho-Quinn. There's Masai Russell, Alicia Johnson, Sirena Samba Mayela, Ditaji Kumbunji. It's a strong field, gentlemen. And Tobi Amusan is really dominant. I won't say dominant. She's a world record holder, but she's never had it easy. The likes of J.Camacho-Quinn have made sure that she never has her own way. And there's also Devynne Charlton, who is also in the mix as well. And there's also other athletes who really want to take this crown. Of course, going into an Olympic year, every one of these events there'll be high stakes. I believe will be high stakes.
Yeah, there'll be high stakes. For Tobi Amusan, don't forget, coming into this calendar year, she had some issues with WADA, the doping issues. After she was cleared, it affected her World Championship. She lost out in the podium at the World Championships in Budapest. No thanks to Danielle Williams, who gave her a run for her money. But she was able to come back almost immediately at the Diamond League, where she won it with 12.33 seconds to win that particular race, beating Camacho-Quinn, who has also been fantastic when you talk about the world of the women's hurdles. I think now for Tobi Amusan, that's way behind her right now. She's focusing on the year 2024. She has a lot of race to run this year. Aside the Diamond League, she'll be looking forward to the Olympics. And new ladies or new persons that you keep cropping up when it comes to the hurdles. Now for Danielle, there's also a Ken Harrison, she's very good. She's from the United States of America. So the good thing about the 100-meter hurdles is you can actually see an upset. You can actually see shocking results. You may say, okay, Tobi Amusan is very good. She's doing well. But also, there are also athletes that are looking forward to give her a run for her money. So it's going to be interesting to see if she gets to defend that particular title she won last year, making it 4 out of 4. Don't forget, we have only one lady that is above her has won 3 titles in a row. So she gets to win the next one. She'll be the first woman to win 4.
That's Diamond League meets in a row.
Yeah. So wait to see how that pans out this year.
Okay, well, you look at it and you look at Tobi Amusan's form coming into this competition. The Africa, eschewing the World Indoors in Glasgow, coming from the Africa Games, warm weather training, some would say. You get that there's a lot of pressure on her. the world record holder. She really has to perform. How does she keep her mentality intact, knowing for a fact that she will be the center of all eyes come Paris, come the Olympic Games? How does she keep her mentality intact? Also, trying not to get burdened by the possibility of injuries, which are always never far away.
I think, first of all, I think it's pertinent to know that she's a seasoned professional. She's a world record holder for a reason. She's been through certain processes that have taken her to where she is currently in her career. And then I take you back to the most recent race for her at the African Games, talking about the final in the 110 meters hurdles. She
100 meter hurdles.
Oh, rather, the 100 meter hurdles, pardon me. She made history once again. 3 straight titles for her there at the African Games. So she will be confident coming into this. Let's not forget that just before the final, or rather at the final, she got a yellow card for a false start. So
yes, that was particularly interesting. In
exactly.
the old days, if she got yellow, she would have been expelled.
Exactly, she would have been expelled. So the nerves are there, but I think the nerves are there because Tobi takes her races so seriously, right? She's so passionate about her sport. She's passionate about representing Nigeria. But most importantly, going into the Diamond League now, she'll be looking forward to getting into that world record form just before the Olympics. Then again, she's going to be thinking about not getting injured. So I think it's all about her mental state of mind. In terms of the physical, we know she's got the best of coaches. She's going to be in an enabling environment that'll be good for her. So in this phase, it's all about the mental aspect. And for me, if I would offer any advice to Tobi, I think first of all, she might just need to stay off social media because people speak a lot, people talk a lot. Oh, honestly, because during this period, people are going to be giving different types of permutations. Everyone has their different, should I say, candidates on who they want to win. And then from Nigerians, we always exert pressure. We want the best for her, but we have a way of exerting pressure on our best, in my own opinion. So for me, I think it's time for her to stay off social media, just focus on the track, listen to her coaches more often, and I think definitely we will see something great from her at the Diamond League.
Well, I think that's really good advice coming from her. I wouldn't mind not seeing Tobi Amusan on social media for a while, as long as she can win a gold medal at the Olympic Games coming up in June and later in the summer. That will be well worth the sacrifice. Well, leaving Tobi Amusan behind, let's move on to domestic basketball. The domestic basketball league in Nigeria is pretty much non-existent, and that is why people like the Louis Edem Foundation are doing their part, not only to give back to the sport, but to ensure that the clubs, the players who have been left in limbo do have some kind of competition. Well, this year's Louis Edem Foundation, Louis Edem Basketball Invitation Tournament will take place late this week, I believe. Yes, it will run from the 31st of March to the 6th of April. And we have some Ghanaian teams jumping into the mix as well. Customs Braves and Spintex Knights from Ghana. They'll be going up against Rivers Hoopers, who are the defending champions of that particular tournament. Well, the tournament will feature 10 male teams, including Kwara Falcons, Lagos Raptors, Lagos Legends, Police Batons, Ebon Comets, and Hoops and Reed. While there'll be 6 women's teams, including MFM, First Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria Customs, Dolphins, Sunshine Angels, and Tap Queens. Well, our cameras were at the press conference today. We heard from Louis Edem himself, who was a former Nigerian international, who is the founder of this competition, and of course, the tournament director, telling us about the 2024 edition of the Louis Edem Invitational.
Having been a part of the basketball community, having played in the league and retiring and seeing that there's no league in Nigeria, you know, we have a lot of these guys that come from overseas and run basketball camps for young people, you know, but my concern is for the league players, you know, because these guys need to compete to earn, you know. I remember when we had a couple of strikes back in the days when we used to play, it was 7-up league that time. We were not getting paid for not playing, you know. These team owners are not going to pay their players if they're not competing. And I remember that it was my salary that I was using to take care of myself and my family, my mom and dad. You know, the little money I was getting from basketball. So just sitting now and just thinking about these players that are, you know, the basketball league has not been really like a league for how long, you know, because of what's happening with the NBBF. So this is just supplementing. We know the NBBF are doing their best. So this is just supplementing, adding to what they're already doing, and just making sure that these guys are competing and getting the opportunity to earn. You know, it's just giving back. And just like Mr. Boniface said, we all have to give back. You know, if you've gotten something from the game, you need to give back to the game. You know, if we have people coming back and...
Well, the words of Louis Edem, who is the organizer of the Louis Edem Invitational. Guys, it's a worthy cause, and I'm really happy about it. The fact that somebody is matching words with action and ensuring that there is some semblance of local basketball going on. But Okwe, you cannot but continue to look at the fact that it is hurtful, it is painful, it is mind-blowing that a country of 200 million people cannot organize a stable basketball league. Yeah, maybe it's not. It's barely better. It's barely better than the football league, our so-called #1 sport. We've had issues regarding when the season will start, when it will end. I mean, this one seems so well so far. But in terms of basketball, it's been almost a decade now since we've had a well-run basketball league in Nigeria, and the fact that we are having to rely on private individuals to come and keep players and clubs active is a damning indictment on the state of the administration of the sport in Nigeria.
Definitely it is. This is 2024, and the so-called giants of Africa do not have a stable basketball league. And then you ask yourself questions when we go to the Olympics, when we go for FIBA tournaments, and then you ask yourself, oh, why aren't we successful? If there is no consistent basketball league, how do you want the players to translate good performances on the international stage? It's quite evident. If you don't make the investment, if you don't do what needs to be done, why do you expect us to do amazingly well? Because we are Nigerians and we have an amazing spirit.
Which is why a lot of people will say that clubs like River Supers, who continually represent Nigeria in the Basketball League Africa, will never do well. Not because of the fact that they're not talented, but they do not play enough games to be competitive with the best sides in Africa.
Yes, of course, for River Supers and other teams in Nigeria, you get to see that when they go to BAL, they play against a fellow African side, they tend to falter. And that's because you cannot compete at the same level if you don't have enough games. I remember in 2015, in 2014, when it was a bit consistent, when it was a bit, normal or regular, that's talking about the league, both the male and the female league. At least you could see the likes of Oluyole Warriors come out, Donda Warriors, Gombe Bulls, Mark Mentors. It was a bit, interesting.
Competitive, yes.
And also we had players in the national team. But now, I think also, because we know that we have players scattered abroad, especially in the United States of America, we know we can just wake up one morning and we're going to the Olympics. Let's go and invite players from the US and from other parts of the world to represent Nigeria. Maybe that has just ensured that the NBBF is a bit relaxed, because if we need to go back to the drawing board, we also need to understand that the likes of Olumide Oyedeji at one point in time started from here. The likes of Farouk Aminu, these are players who also know that the league is so important. But right now, we don't have a league. Aside Precious Achua's foundation, the other foundations that have come together to give back to the league. And I asked a question. Musa Kida keeps saying that he's been using his financial resources to run part of the basketball league in Nigeria. How come he has not been able to use that to get sponsors with his pedigree and with his rich nature? To drive the system.
It all boils down to the fact that nobody wants to put their money into a chaotic atmosphere. Nobody wants to put their money into an atmosphere where there's litigation fighting left and right. Everybody is fighting for legitimacy.
It's been settled for a while. I mean, the last 2 years, we've noticed that the Tijani Umar faction, they were able to come in collaboration where Olumide Oyedeji was, incorporated into the other camp as one of the, he currently holds a position in that particular, in the camp of Musa Kida. And after that, we've also seen that there's not been any news of we're taking you to court. There's been some calm in the Basketball Federation for a while now. So we are expecting that they should take it from there. I mean, every now and then we keep asking questions. If we don't get to see a 2 weeks or a 1 month basketball tournament that would just get the champion to represent Nigeria in BAL, we don't have a league.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you're holding a national league for just a month, maybe a few weeks, and that's supposed to present the champion for Nigeria.
It's quite funny. We have one problem with administration from the government, and then sometimes we individuals ourselves, people are so concerned about taking personal glory.
Oh yeah, we've read about journalists have been involved.
It's disheartening. I mean, it's one thing that there is already a problem that has been, should I say, put up by the government, and then for us individuals who are meant to be pushing the sport forward and doing great things for it, we also cause issues to it. I think it's a Nigerian problem, and it's quite general in my own opinion, but we need to do better if we actually want the best.
Well, I hope I want to thank the organizers of the Louis Edem Invitational for actually deeming it fit to want to give back to the sport that made Louis Edem a household name in Nigeria, and also to continue to plead with the authorities that having a 1 month, 2 month league in quotes to find Nigeria's basketball champion will not cut it at continental level. Well, let's leave that behind and move on to something a bit more stirring. Everyone is quite aware of what has been dubbed on social media as Project Mbappe, the search for the next global superstar by parents who want to invest in not only the educational educational growth of their children, but their sporting potential as well. The term has been coined sporting parents, parents who go beyond the extra mile to develop and invest in their children so that they can reach the fullest of their potential. But it's a question that begs to be asked, how do these parents, what drives them? Is it personal glory? Is it for the betterment of their child? Or is it just all about the cash register ringing so that the family will be the ultimate beneficiary? Well, joining us now in Lagos here is Tola Ogunlewe. He's a sports parenting coach, and he joins us from in Lagos here to tell us a bit more about the phenomenon that is called sports parenting. Thank you so much for joining us, Tola. Well, we've talked about sports parenting, but in truth, it's a triumvirate, right? It involves three pillars. There's the athlete himself, there's the coach, and there's also the parents. Of course, we know that the athlete is the ultimate beneficiary of this, who is expected to hone his talents in order to reach the highest potential possible. The coach himself is also the person who's supposed to help this athlete polish his talents. But what about the role of the sporting parents in this itself?
Thank you so much for having me. This is a topic that I've been very passionate about. Obviously, looking at my own journey in sports and how I also had dreams to play professional sports, and obviously that was cut short through injury, for several other reasons. But you see, the point is that if you look at, I can count the amount of successful athletes, right? Or I can't count actually the amount of successful athletes who, if you trace their progress and how they were able to succeed in sports, you would see that parenting was a huge part of how they were able to make that progress. I'm sure about 85% of all the successful athletes you see in the world today, so not just in Africa or not just in Nigeria, you see that their parents played huge roles. And when we come to Africa specifically, we've gone from two ends of the spectrum. So we started out from, the older generation of parents who didn't want to hear anything about sports. Right, if you played football in school, you get beaten.
Oh,
right?
I can tell you as a matter of fact, my parents whooped me proper. Yeah, that's why I didn't end up playing for Nigeria. I would have probably been the best defensive midfielder you ever had.
Exactly. So you see, good examples right there in the studio. So we've gone from that end of the spectrum where they didn't want to hear anything about sports, and we've gone now to this end of the spectrum, which is Project Mbappe, like you said, where any major financial news in sports. You're hearing parents talking about their children being the next superstars and all of that. But beyond that, what is the role that those parents then play in the development of that child? And what I always say, and which is very key, is that you are the first port of influence that your child would have, right? So if there is nothing positive that you are doing in a strategic manner to help your child develop in sports, it would just be dreams and it would just be vibes. And this is what we always say. So I try to follow the trajectory of a lot of parents who, say things like, oh, I want my child to be the next superstar in sports and all of that. And, give them 4 or 5 years, you see that thing would die naturally. Now, here is the flip side of that story. If that child is passionate enough through external influences, family members, when they get to school, people in their neighborhood, if they are passionate enough to resist the help they don't receive from their parents, what happens is that the opportunity for that child to actually do anything with sports is usually lost. Why? Because they did not get the right support, the right strategy to approach it from the get-go. And I think that's where the parenting angle comes in. You spend most of the time with your child, they are primarily influenced, at least up until the time when they are 13, 14, you are always in and around them. And you rightly identified. You have the parents, you have the athlete, you have the coach. You see, before you even get to the issue of the coaches and all of that, if the work that ought to be done has not been done by the parent first, then for the coaches, it's just a case of, this is another student. I'll get my pay from coaching this child. I don't really think they will make it to any level whatsoever, but let's see how we go. So it always starts with parents.
I need to ask this question. So how do parents even identify that their kids have any kind of sporting potential? Any parent would just wake up today and say, okay, I want my child to be the next Erling Haaland or the next Victor Osimhen. But what if the kid doesn't have it?
Yes, so that's something I've also heard. And you see, I always use this example, and I'm going to ask you this example as well, and the guys in the studio as well, that have you ever seen a child who was introduced to video games early and they turned out not to like video games? So you introduce them to video games early enough, and then they get to the point where they're like, this video game, I don't like it. I don't like playing. I don't like the
To be honest, I can't think of any. Can you guys?
No.
They all
exactly. 99% of the time, you will not find a child who doesn't like playing video games. So what that tells you is that the element of play is imbued in the DNA of children. What happens when sports comes into the mix is that from the parenting angle, especially when the dream is that of the parent, you remove that element of play. So when you start shouting Project Mbappe, for a child who is 5, 6 years old, you're already imbuing in them that, look, I want you to be Mbappe. I want you to be LeBron James. I want you to be this person. I want you to be that person. You are removing the element of play. So when that child eventually then goes on and says, hey, I don't want to do this, it is the natural default for the parent to say, oh, my child just doesn't like sports. My child is just not made for sports. So the parents that say that, number one, are those who have removed the element of play completely from that child because of expectations and pressures and things that you place on them. Children that play video games, there's no pressure. If they lose too much, they'll put off the video game, they'll come back in the evening or they'll come back tomorrow, right? It's not a case of, if you don't do well in this video game, then there are these consequences. So that's the first set. The second set are those who you do not pay attention enough to the environment in which your child is. You guys have talked about in the studio how, talking about basketball and how we have a systemic problem in Nigeria when it comes to sports. So imagine a parent, right, who, spouses are tall, they come from tall families, their child has the potential to be tall, wants to get introduced to basketball. How exactly is it that they do that if that parent is not intentional enough? If the parent leaves it to the system, right, that child is never going to play basketball, is never going to get introduced to basketball to the point where they can even like it.
Okay.
So that answers your question to parents who say things like, my child is not just made for sports.
Okay. So Tola, for me, what happens when a child knows that he is good and the child is passionate about a particular sport? How does that child manage to convince the parents to get on board?
So fantastic, and this is also one of the athletes that I work with, this is one question that they also ask as well, in the sense that, look, my parents have gotten to the point where they're not buying into this dream. Now, you see, it's one of two things. You starting from an early age, obviously, you're majorly dependent on your parents. That doesn't, get out of the way until much later in life. You see, you have to continue on that passion-driven quest to the point where they get to the realization whereby they see that this child is not dropping this thing. But you see, where the problem then is that when they then come to the realization that you are not dropping this thing and they are then ready to support you, it's usually too late. So I have parents who will come to me and say, Tola, my child is about to graduate university. They've been talking about this football thing for about 10 years. Okay, now that they are graduating, I'm ready to support them. Let's see where they can go. And I'm like, you should have supported them 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
The attention then turns to the child themselves and now that they are ready to support you, it's already too late. So is there something you could have done way back when to ensure that at least you give yourself a little chance? And that's where education comes in. So yes, the child who is very young, you can't really do much about it. But when you get to the age of enlightenment, so you start getting to 13, 14, 15, 16, you have to take it into your own hands.
All right, Tola.
Educate yourself about that sport and see what are the ways that I can still make up ground so that when eventually my parents come on board, it's not too late.
Okay.
All right, so I would like to ask from the angle of a child, for instance, he or she loves a particular sport, not football, and he or she does not have the right facility, especially in this part of the world. For instance, the child is into
fencing, let's say fencing.
Or maybe squash or the kind of sport that they want to participate in, and they don't have the opportunity. For you as a person, one who is also used to this particular kind of issues, how do you bridge the gap, especially knowing that the facilities are not there? Yes, the child is passionate. The parents also want to also have their child participate in that sport, but there are no facilities, close by.
So this is always a fantastic question. This is also why a lot of the work that I do is very parent-centered. So I always tell parents this. I say that you have no business, right, introducing or getting your child involved in a sport that the system or the environment where you are primarily are is not supportive of them. So I'm guessing, for example, that the child who falls in love with fencing, the child who falls in love with squash, it is not going to be as a result of the environment they are currently in. Maybe they saw it on TV. Maybe they and their parents traveled to a particular country. They saw the sport.
Oh, wow. Hello, Tola, are you there? Well, we seem to have lost Tola Ogunlewe. Enjoying the conversation quite thoroughly myself. But from what it seems, Favour, going back to your question, it seems from what you said now, I think the only solution for any child who has a love for sports like maybe equestrian or fencing is for his parents to japa. Maybe to go Canada, United States might offer him a better opportunity.
But also, even the football we're talking about, we all know that most of the grassroots coaches, some of them is kick and follow, play the ball, bude, which is kick the ball out, and these particular kind of instructions and.
Okay, yeah. Just wanted to, sorry to cut you short, Favour. We heard that Tola Ogunlewe is back. Tola, we have to go quickly. But finally, I was just asking Favour, now just throwing that Favour now. Does that mean that for parents here in Nigeria who really want their kids to hit the high notes, to become the next Mbappe, the next Haaland, we've seen a lot of these players, superstar players that we talked about, their players are actively involved in building their careers. Are you saying that the solution for them is for the parents to jackpot with their kids so that they can have the enabling environment to hone their skills?
Not necessarily jackpot in its entirety, but you need to understand the tenets of that particular sport. So there are certain sports that would allow you remain where you are. So your base can be Nigeria, your base can be Africa. Football is a prime example. Football, you don't need to jackpot anywhere to really make it, so to speak. You can be in Nigeria, you can be in Africa. With the right strategy, you can still make it. But when you're talking about sports like fencing, squash, you're playing tennis, you're playing some of all these other sports, it gets to a certain level where the country you are is a primary determinant of the progress that child will make. So if you're really serious about them succeeding, then it's something that you have to look at as part of your plan that, hey, do we need to move location? Do we need to ensure that we are surrounded by this sport to make it work? Because otherwise, it's more or less like you're just wasting your time. They will love the sport, but they will never be able to progress in it. Okay,
we've been speaking with Tola Ogunlewe, sports parenting coach. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us regarding sports parenting, especially here in Nigeria. And according to my producer and director behind the scene in Nigeria here, probably our biggest, probably one of our biggest references is Kanu Uncle, who his parents told him, Papilo, one day will make us proud. And that was how he made us proud. But thank you once again, Tola, for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, guys, we're fast running out of time. We'll take a short break now. When we return, it's football all the way. We have the man himself, the Chinese one, China Acheru, joining us live from Port-Harcourt. Plenty of football to talk after the break. Thank you very much for staying tuned. You're still watching Game On here on News Central Television. I still have the guys here with me. Tobi Adebari is here as well. Favour is here as well. And my name is still Babatunde Koiki. Well, it's time to talk football now. But very quickly, let's tell you that one game was played in the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League today. And unsurprisingly, Africa's club of the century went away to the hotbed of Tanzania, claimed a 1-0 win, putting themselves in good position to qualify for the semi-finals. And that is, as we say, this part of the world, that's how stars do. Yeah, yes. that's how big teams play. They go away. They might not play too well, but they get the result that matters. So the first leg of one of the quarterfinal matches in the CAF Champions League has been concluded tonight in faraway Dar es Salaam. It was Al Ahly, Africa Club of the Century, multiple CAF Champions League winner, defeating Simba by 1-0. Well, this is the favorite part of the show for me because joining us right now all the way from Port-Harcourt is my good friend and senior colleague, China Acheru, author of the seminal book, 1,000 Times on the Same Road, a book that is a fantastic compendium on Nigerian football. Thank you so much for joining us, China. Well, no surprise for you that Al Ahly won?
No, that's surprise. I'd be surprised if Al Ahly lost that game. No surprise. One of the biggest sides in Africa. You're expected to win games like this, and they did it.
Okay, well, let's move on quickly and start from the domestic scene. And with a bit of gossip, we hear that one of the finest players in this season's MPFL 2023-24 is on the verge of sealing a move to a European club. I'm talking about, surprisingly, Kingdom Osayi, the goalkeeper of Doma United. We hear that he's been looked at very closely by a few European clubs and is on the verge of leaving, and he's kept 13 clean sheets in the MPFL this season, one of the standout players, although Doma United are currently not doing too well. They're on a winless streak of 10 games after the second stanza of the league started, but he would be a big loss. But how cool is that? How many times do you see goalkeepers move from the Nigeria Professional Football League straight to European clubs?
I'll be shocked. We saw Vincent Xiamen move, but went to Israel. We also saw Austin Ejide move, but went to Eastern Europe. So I'm wondering what part of Europe is going. It's always very difficult to have a goalkeeper move from Nigeria straight to mainstream Europe. We saw Ike Shore move to back in the 90s, and
he was in Switzerland.
So I'll be eager to know what European country is he going to. A lot of times for Nigerian goalkeepers, they try their luck in South Africa. A lot of times, but
North Africa too. Remember, Austin Ejide was also with Itua Sahel too. Remember?
Yeah. So I'm a bit surprised and of course excited too. But then again, it will be good to know what part of Europe is going to. But it's always good for a goalkeeper to move. You hardly have goalkeepers moving straight from Nigeria to European League, so it's a good one for the Nigerian League and for the player himself.
So for those who haven't watched Kingdom Asai, just how good is he? Because there were those who are screaming and clamoring for his inclusion in the Nigerian squad for the Africa Cup of Nations that took place earlier this year. There are those who believe that at worst case he should have been in camp if he was dropped, but at least he should have received the call up. Just how good is Kingdom Asai?
The Nigerian League has produced some good goalkeepers, right? And you said it all. When a goalkeeper keeps 13 clean sheets in the Nigerian League, it's big. It's big, no doubt. He has confidence between the sticks, right? He's a good shot stopper, and you must know that most Nigerian goalkeepers are good shot stoppers already. But he has command of his area, and basically he's confident between the sticks. When you have all of that, and you play for Doma United, and you keep 13 clean sheets, then we must talk about you. And people probably talked about him, and the scouts noticed him. And he's on his way out of the country. He's a very good goalkeeper, I must say.
Okay, well, let's leave Doma United and the MPFL behind. But of course, there'll be no matches this weekend because of the Easter break. But there will be matches all across Africa in the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup. One match has already been concluded already. Let's quickly show you the other games to look forward to this weekend. That's the one that's been concluded. Yes, these are the ones coming up this weekend. TP Mazembe, former champions as well, facing Petro Atletico. One of the probably the surprise team of this season, CAF Champions League. They have not lost a single game, either home or away. Young Africans, the other Tanzanian team, are in the mix as well. They'll be hosting Mamelodi Sundowns, one of the biggest teams in the CAF Champions League over the last few seasons. Then Esperance of Tunis, the blood and gold of Tunis, will also be hosting ASEC Mimosa. Now, this used to be a big game back in the day. This was actually a final of the CAF Champions League back in the day, and it's really good to see ASEC Mimosa back at the top of African football. China, which one of these fixtures are you looking forward to the most?
Well, Mamelodi Sundowns, they're always a delight to watch for Sundowns. In the past 10 years, they just took African football by storm. So always a delight to watch. But again, you mentioned Esperance against ASEC Mimosas. ASEC Mimosas held in Africa in the 90s, then they fell off, and they're gradually finding their way back. So a tie between Esperance and ASEC Mimosas will always be a great one to watch. But again, I will tell you, it has to be Sundowns. Great side every day of the week.
Okay, let's leave the CAF Champions behind and move on to the CAF Confederations Cup, where our interests lie for obvious reasons. Matches will be played this weekend as well. There you see it, Rivers United facing USM Alger. That match will be taking place in Uyo instead of Port-Harcourt, where you are based. Of course, for obvious reasons, CAF did not sign off on the Adokia Masi Maka Stadium. That's why that match is being played in Uyo. And USM Alger, defending champions of this particular competition. Stade Malien will also be facing Dreams of Ghana. Abu Salim of Libya will also be entertaining RSB Berkane of Morocco, while Future FC of Egypt will take on Zamalek in an all-Egyptian humdinger. Somebody has to go. But China, let's talk about that Rivers United versus USM Alger game. There's been so much talk just before a ball has been kicked regarding this fixture about how Rivers United tried to get the Confederation of African Football to move the kickoff of the game, originally scheduled for 1500 hours, which is, I think that's that's 3 p.m. to 2 p.m. For reasons best known to them. Some have said that, the Algerians have said it's underhand tactics on the part of Rivers United because they know that they are fasting and it's Ramadan. They are trying to get undue advantage. What is your opinion regarding this?
Listen, every home team wants to have a situation that will favor them. For the Algerians, they play the game at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. in Algeria is very cold for any away team, unless you're a fellow Algerian or North African side. They always want to play their games at the time that favor them. For Rivers United, they feel that the 2 p.m. kickoff will favor them. So why won't they do what they have to do to favor them? On their tactics, no. Who fixes the kickoff times? It's between CAF, the owners of the competition, and the broadcast right owners. So what could Rivers United have done apart from apply for a change in time? So you will expect the Algerian side to protest because probably it's not going to favor them because they are fasting. But again, in the away leg or in their own home leg, you're going to ask what time will the game be played? It's a time that will not favor Rivers United. So these are things that the home sides do in football all over the world. We are not talking about bribing referees. No, we're talking about a kickoff time that favors you. And Rivers just did what they had to do, apply to CAF to have a time that favors them. And from what I hear, CAF has given them that time. So games will kick off at 2 p.m. Nigeria time on Sunday.
So you can confirm to us that that game will actually kick off at 2 p.m. and not 3 p.m. as originally advertised?
Yeah, because I was in a group today, that involved high-ranking members of Rivers United. And there, it was said that the kickoff time will be 2 p.m.
Okay, but Rivers United getting to this stage of the competition, despite playing away from home throughout this competition, you must commend them. But against the defending champions, USM Alger, who've shown real capacity this time around, do Rivers have any cause for alarm?
Yes, they do. They have this loss of concentration spells in their team. And if that happens in a game like this, they don't have to concede an away goal to the away team. They can't do that. Now, first, one thing we must agree on, Rivers United are very, very lucky to be playing this game. They were out of the tournament by seconds because they scored that late goal to win against Dreams FC. So they can only thank God they're here. Now, playing this stage, they need to stay focused all 90 or 95 minutes of the game. Will a 1-0 win be enough? No. Will a 2-0 win be enough? I doubt it. Will a 3-0 win be enough? Now we are getting there. So it's a game that they must play with all their heart and soul, high intensity and all. Do they have cause to be worried? They have a lot of cause to be worried because it's North Africa. Our home clubs dread the North African sides. Just the way in the 80s and the 70s, our national team used to dread the North African sides. Now it's our clubs that dread them because they have their way of playing, especially in the away games. They sit back, they defend, they hit you off the counter. Once they get an away goal, they fall back and defend for the rest of the game. Rivers United do not want that to happen on Sunday. So yes, they need to be worried. They need to score as many goals as possible, or else the second leg might just be a mere formality for the Algerian side.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Acheru, thank you for your insight so far. But away from that, I want to ask you a question regarding the vacant Super Eagles job. Sunday Olise came out recently to say that he actually did not apply for the job. I don't know, what are your thoughts regarding this? And do you even consider him a credible candidate to take over the reins as Super Eagles coach?
People say technically he's good enough, but he just does not have the man management skills to handle the Super Eagles or to handle any football team. A lot went down when he was coach of the team, and for those of us who are close to the team, people say, no, we don't want Sunday Olise back in the team. Not because he's not good enough, but because he may just destroy the peace and harmony in the team, if at all there is any right now. So I don't think he's the right man for the job. Finidi has done 2 games, friendly games, Ghana and Mali, lost 1-1-1. The jury is still out on him. Can Finidi handle that team? Listen, we can never tell. Unless the person is given a chance. There's also Emmanuel Amunike who qualified Tanzania to the African Cup of Nations, coached them at the AFCON, and he's one of the one of them that are highly sick for them. But who has the single stick? Will they give it to a Nigerian coach? Then maybe it's between Amunike and George Finidi. Will they go foreign? Then there are about 500 foreign coaches who want the job. It's left for Ibrahim Bodo and the rest of the NFF crew. But for Sunday Olise, not that he's not good enough, but does he have the temperament to handle the team? If you ask 100 Nigerians, 98 will tell you no. So I think he should sit this one out.
Okay, we're not asking 100 Nigerians, we're asking you, Chana Acheru. What do you think?
He doesn't have the temperament to handle that team. I don't think he should. I said that before.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chana Acheru, joining us all the way from Port-Harcourt. We know that you have some rather busy schedule this evening. We'll not keep you waiting, but thank you so much for your time.
Bonfire night happening just beside me. Bonfire night. And
I didn't want to say anything. I just said you had a busy night.
I'm saying it.
Okay. Thank you for telling us. Enjoy yourself and have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, Chana Acheru.
I will.
Guys, I mean, he's giving his own verdict. He doesn't think Saudi Olise is good enough. So who is now possibly good enough? We heard that over 50 coaches have applied already. And we're even hearing talk that there might be a Herb Renard who said he might be interested after the Olympic Games. There's also a possibility that Pitso Mosimane, if offered the right incentive, might be even interested as well. So I would definitely take Pitso Mosimane. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think he's a fantastic, but I don't know what you guys think.
We're paying Garotro and also Giuseppe Pesero over $55,000 and we had issues with it.
Okay.
Do we have over $100,000, close to $200,000 for Pitso Mosimane or
what if a Nigerian oligarch or billionaire says, this is my contribution to Nigerian development. I will pay the salary of the Nigerian national.
What if he's not consistent with it? Remember what happened also when someone came out to say, I have the money to renovate Abuja Stadium. What about the maintenance culture?
Very true. Very, very true. Let's move on, guys, and let's talk about there will be matches in the English Premier League this weekend as well. Let's quickly show you those fixtures. Some really, really great games to look forward to. One of them is a promising Horndinger. That's Newcastle United versus West Ham United. Everton will be guests of Bournemouth. Chelsea will take on Burnley. Crystal Palace travel all the way to Nottingham Forest, while Sheffield United, who are struggling against relegation, will be entertaining Fulham. It's Tottenham Hotspur versus Luton Town, Aston Villa taking on Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Brentford versus Manchester United. Those matches will be played tomorrow. But on Sunday, some really good games to look forward to. Liverpool versus Brighton. Now we hear that this might be an audition for Roberto De Zerbi, coach of Brighton. But look at that other fixture, Manchester City versus Arsenal. Let me start with you, Favour. Okoya said that this might be a possible title decider. But what do you think?
Well, I don't think it will be a possible title decider. Don't forget, both sides, especially for Manchester City, they've not still shown the consistency they had last season. I mean, you can't tell Manchester City not to, drop points in the next 5 games. Then for Arsenal, they've been having series of, big games come up, and they've been able to, go past them. The last 6 big teams they played, they were able to get points and also win most of the games. They've also shown that they have character in their team. And I think also for Mikel Arteta, having gotten a win against Pep Guardiola before now, would also be looking for another win against him. So it's going to be a big one. Of course, we know what City is facing at the moment, lots of injury worries, but nevertheless, they will still come out smoking and wanting to get something out of the game.
Yeah, that's a major worry for Manchester City now. As you can see it on the screen, we heard that John Stones and Kyle Walker will not be part of that game. Huge blows, huge defensive blows for a Manchester City team that's a lot of people have already said it's a soft touch and concede too many goals already this season.
Exactly, huge blow. But then they've got a £60 million defender and a £70 million defender ready to step in and debutize for them.
Who are those?
I'm talking about Manuel Akanji, Favour in
but records don't play.
True,
play
but at the end of the day, I think the psychological factor has to come into play here. Because Arteta is yet to get a win against Pep Guardiola. Arsenal is yet to get a win against Man City at the Etihad.
Has gotten a win against.
I think last season.
But then that's
last season as well.
Some people say it was a fluke. It was a fluke because it was a 1-0 victory.
It doesn't matter.
A win is a win at the end of the day. But then again, we've come to the business end of the season. This is when you need to show character, and this is when you need to show consistency and discipline.
And Arsenal have shown that in tremendous amounts. Well,
it could just be that year.
Well, let's see. Let's quickly move on to Germany and tell you that Bayern Munich striker Harry Kane has been passed fit for the Klassiker against Borussia Dortmund. He did not play in the recent friendly matches for England against Brazil and Belgium, but we hear that Thomas Tuchel, his coach, has said that he's already fit to play this weekend against Borussia Dortmund. Don't forget that Bayern are way behind, 10 points behind Bayer Leverkusen in the chase for the title. And Harry Kane, on his part, has had a brilliant season. He scored 31 goals in 26 games. Still sticking with the Bundesliga, Xabi Alonso has come out clearly to say that he will not be leaving Bayer Leverkusen this season, which has put paid to the ambitions of the likes of Liverpool and Bayern Munich, who wanted to appoint him as their coach. And we hear that he's come out to say that I'm convinced it is the right decision. I'm happy here. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, Leverkusen are on the verge of sealing a historic first Bundesliga title under this man here, which begs the question, who are the possible candidates left for the likes of Liverpool? We hear that, I did mention Roberto De Zerbi is high on their list, but there's also a certain Ruben Amorim, coach of Sporting Lisbon. Yes, Sporting Lisbon. Could he be a possible candidate? Nobody seems to know too much about him.
Well, for Ruben Amorim is one man, of course, who is in his late 30s. One, of course, who won the Portuguese Cup with Braga some years ago, 2012, 2013. Fast forward to that, he took over at Sporting, also won the league with Sporting. That season that Sporting did so fantastically well. And so far, so good. He's been able to do a lot this season. Yes, he's not top of the table, but he's close to being top of the table, behind Benfica. So it's a lot to show for, although his career was cut short, his playing career, but we expect a lot from him.
Well, we'll see what Liverpool eventually decides, since Xabi Alonso is no longer on the table, but somebody has to fill that huge seat, that huge void that is going to be left behind by Jurgen Klopp. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been fun. It's been entertaining. I had great fun today. Yeah, and of course, to everyone behind the scenes who made this particularly possible. But before we go, let's tell you that in 2012, a sports official was killed on the pitch after being hit by a javelin during a German athletics meeting. Yeah, Dieter Schmidt, who was on duty at the Wilhelm Unger Games for young athletes in Dusseldorf, had gone to measure the throw of a previous athlete when the javelin from the next contestant hit him in the neck. The javelin struck the 75-year-old in the throat, severing his carotid artery, and he died from his injuries in hospital. What a gruesome way to go. Well, yeah, I don't know what to say about that, but we really have to talk to our producer with this one. But this was, but thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been fun. It's been entertaining. Game On makes a return on Monday. My name is Babatunde Koiki. Wish you a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.